So I just came across a video of a 22-year-old boy who was getting flamed in his
Hi, friend. This can get me canceled, but I don't care. I've been called worse, whatever. I am currently trying to deconstruct this for myself. I am about to turn 46. As Gen Z started to become of age, I started to realize what you're talking about, that it wasn't okay. That being said, there's something that you're just not considering because you're not our age anymore. You have the content, and okay, the closest thing to this is what a lot of turfs in the women's sphere talked about in regards to trans women, the continuity of the individual from childhood into adulthood. So that's one thing that I think Gen Z is kind of stuck. You kind of believe you're still kids. You're not. Yes, the brain takes a little bit longer to what do you call to mature and to be cognizant of consequences, right? That's a documented scientific fact. Okay, I don't know where it comes from, but I remember hearing that a long time ago that the reason why a lot of teens and children and into adulthood around 24, I think, do a lot of stupid shit is because, like you said, that the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed, right? Okay, so that's two parts. I'm building up to the point, right? Okay, so the on the aspect of the continuity of the self from childhood all the way into basically death, the individual, the mind of the individual, irrespective of gender expression, doesn't see self as their body because they're not in front of fucking mirrors all the time, right? And so that's what some of these people up in the comments were trying to get at, that you will get old at some point, your body will become unattractive, and then you'll be where we are, missing the old days. And for me, that's actually, I deconstructed that part of the reason why I was so attracted to younger men, adult men, was that um, I missed so many opportunities growing up. For starters, I didn't come out of the closet until I was 21, right? So dating as a young boy never happened. I was actually pushed out of the closet in high school. My junior year was kind of, it was hell, and but my senior year was amazing. There's a video somewhere in my history. Um, and then my formative years between age 18 and 23 in the gay community, I was a lot. I was used a lot for my resources. People would only call me for my computer or my car or X, Y, and Z. Couple that with all the fucking chaos that I went through when I was a kid, I was very unsure of myself, very shy, very reserved. And so I missed a lot of opportunities that till this day I kick myself in the ass. And I just didn't have game. I didn't have game. Um, so for me to go up to a cute guy and be like, hey, what's up? Or some bullshit like that never happened. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, irrespective of gender expression, it starts to creep in as you get older. And by the time you're about 40s, is when you have people like the cougars on the heterosexual side, or just in general women who are cougars. Because I can imagine that would also apply to lesbian cougars, right? That there would be lesbian cougars out there. Um, so the fact that you're just focusing on men is kind of weird itself because it happens across all gender expressions. That this, for me, it's a psychological aspect that our mind not realizing it's old, but only when we're focusing on our bodies that this hurts and that hurts. But the other people, people like you who are younger, focus on that a lot. And yes, some people can be predatory, but that can be of any age, any gender expression. For me personally, when I started to realize that this was problematic and started to hear that it was weird from Gen Z, I was like, okay, well, let me see, let me unpack this, right? And I started to see that it was just me missing the opportunities that these young men represented. Not them themselves, but me reliving my youth in that respect, right? But I did realize, I was like, okay, well, they have a point. It's kind of creepy, and especially, putting myself back into that age, saying, okay, yeah, I did a lot of stupid stuff. I trusted people that I shouldn't have, and now as an adult, I know way more stuff. So yeah, it makes sense that what they're saying as older adults, we know shit that basically give us unfair advantages, right? So I was like, okay, and then other aspects of Gen Z became a turnoff for me. So I was like, okay, I really need to start focusing on guys closer to my age because I have very little to nothing in common with a lot of these Gen Zs that are in their 20s, right? Um, so for me, that's how I evolved in that respect. The other part that you sort of mentioned is, and it kind of sounds a lot like purity talking points. For me, in my latest situationship, this guy, I estimate, he never told me his actual age, but I estimate he's maybe 10 to 15 years younger than me. He was the aggressor. He's the one who was pursuing me. So you're not even accounting for those type of scenarios. In this scenario with this 20 something year old, that's predatory thinking too on his part, right? That's why these individuals are getting upset because although it was the older one that was predatory in the respect of not taking a no for a hint, there are some individuals in the younger category that will use their beauty, their aesthetic, whatever, as a tool to get what they need. And these lonely guys, because I'm not going to say that I haven't done this, I have paid people for companionship. So there is an age, and that's what they're telling you, that don't be talking about this because you don't know how you're going to be. There has been studies that as we age, irrespective of gender expression, we lose friends to they form their own families, they pass away, they move away, you lose contact. So you're losing friends and you're not really replenishing them as you should, right? But that's maybe something for Gen Z to start to figure out ahead of time to be proactive about that. So what happens? You get lonelier and lonelier and lonelier. So you make stupid decisions based on abandonment issues that you have. You try to get the companionship that you so richly desire at the expense of questionable, on question at the expense of questionable decisions, right? Including being predatory in this sense. Is it a problem? Yes, absolutely. Can older guys take advantage of younger guys? Of course. Nobody's saying that is not true. But to totally dismiss that both are adults and that both have their freak on and want their freak on, I heard the other day a young man who talked about going to a bathhouse that they showed that he saw this guy who was maybe in his 80s or something, but was very well endowed. And he had a line of twinks. So for you not even to consider that is kind of problematic too. That sometimes a twink just is horny as well, you know? Um, so it's like you're shaming both sides for trying to engage with each other. Should both get their ass to therapy, to a 12-step, like, Emotions Anonymous? Absolutely. They need to be doing that to unpack these. Why am I doing this kind of stuff when I don't have anything in common with this guy? This younger man is using me, or this guy is using me for my body. Both have issues that need to be resolved internally and be reflected upon. So it's not such a simple issue like you're trying to paint it. And I know that you may not be aware of some of these issues. So that's why I'm putting it out there that, you know, relationships are complicated, you know? And the more different you are, the more complicated it's going to be. I hope that helps.